Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and in today's video we're going to be discussing fossils in folk magic. I'm very excited for today's video because we're going to be talking about fossils in folk magic, more specifically English folk magic, and thought I'd wear my fossils shirt even though it's like a pajama top, so I'm looking a little bit messy, but it's fine. I thought I couldn't not wear this shirt. Fossils are something which have been used in magic across the globe by many different magical practitioners and traditions for centuries. They're just so fun, and I find quite a nice, more local alternative to maybe like the crystals that you see a lot in modern witchcraft. And it's so rewarding when you go out and you find one yourself. It's so much more magical. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about their uses in English folk magic today. Let's start with fairy loaves. Now, I have spoken about fairy loaves or loaves before in my good luck charms video, and at that point I didn't actually have one, but recently I went to Mundlesea in Norfolk. I was just walking along the beach, I did a prayer to Nodens and Sulis, and lo and behold, literally like a minute later, out of the blue I just found a fairy loaf. So I was very excited. I was very grateful. So fairy loaves are essentially fossilized sea urchins, or known as like echinoids, and they are characterized by their like dome shape, so somewhat spherical. Sometimes they can be like heart shaped as well, and they have these 5 lines that essentially go out like a star. In Suffolk or East Anglia they're mostly known as fairy loaves, but you see them also called like shepherd's crowns, pixie weights, sugar loaves. But yeah, this is actually a flint fossil, so this is something which is basically called a trace fossil. You get flint which can actually contain some fossils, and in other cases essentially what happens is the skeleton of the animal, the fossil, the mineral forms around it, and when the skeleton essentially wears away, the fossil contains trace outline of the previously positioned fossil. So this is what's happened here. I'm not an expert, so I probably butchered that explanation, but they're called flint fossils, and this is one of them, but essentially still counts as something relating to a fairy loaf. So they're predominantly found in East Anglian folklore, which is the region of England which I am from, and there's a lot of accounts of people who would use them for prosperity magic, you know, good luck magic, and sometimes protection. So in general, they were considered lucky for anyone who found one and simply kept one. There's also accounts for people placing them on like a mantelpiece above a hearth, for example, and that would essentially ensure that bread will always stay in the house. George Evans explains that this is a form of imitation magic because the fossil kind of resembles like an old cottage loaf of bread, so it's essentially imitating that. Having this on your mantelpiece to resemble bread will always ensure that your supply of bread will never run out in the house, for example. And Enid Porter, another notable folklorist, notes of an account of a woman from Suffolk explaining that it's a protective stone to protect you from evil because it has 2 crosses on it. So you see like the sort of cross intersection there, and it can be on the other side as well. So overall, a very good stone for abundance, prosperity, protection, good luck. So something which can definitely be used in like a spell bowl. It's great for that. As just a general talisman, you can have a ritual where you charm it and place it in an area which resembles like income or good harvest, or ensuring like stable income or plenty of like food resources. It could be your kitchen, or it could be your work desk, or if you're doing like a prosperity candle, you can place it like next to the candle and then have like a sprinkle of herbs around it. There's so many different ways you can use this fossil in like more modern folkloric witchcraft, but essentially it was mostly used in traditional customs as like a talisman, something which just attracts good luck or wealth or prosperity. The next fossil I'm going to talk about is Thunderbolts or Belemnites. So these fossils are like conical, arrow or dart shaped fossils that are essentially from a squid-like cephalopod animal. So they can range from like an orange to grey to bluey in colour. Mostly I see them found like in orange like this. People do also polish them so they look a little bit shinier, but this is just as I found it, and it can be somewhat translucent as well sometimes. But yeah, they have been known by different names. Thunderbolts, Thunderpipes, I think I've read them as well as like elf darts, but usually they're known as Thunderbolts. And similarly to the fairy loaves, they're used for luck and protection. As you can probably tell from the name, they are associated with thunder, as the old folk belief was that when there was like a thunderstorm, these would fall down from the sky, shoot down like arrows. A variation of this folk belief is that during a thunderstorm where the lightning strikes the ground, these would form. So they're associated with thunder, lightning, storms, and it was said that anyone who carries one on their person will never be struck by lightning during a storm. So in that sense, they're a protective stone, and George Evans also writes of how people would carry these in their pocket for luck. And something else which Val Thomas writes about in this book of Chalk and Flint, which is a book all about Norfolk magic. So Norfolk is an area in the northmost part of East Anglia, and she writes about how to sort of like use these in modern magic, and she talks about really fun ideas like using it as like a pendulum pendant for, you know, dowsing or divination. And she talks about crafting like a wand made out of this as the tip, which I thought those are really neat crafty ideas. They were used for luck and protection. You can use them in your protection rituals, you can use them in your, maybe if you have like a good luck bowl or like a sachet. If you find a small enough one, you can put them in your little pouches, or if you make a little poppet, you can stuff it inside the poppet. Lots of little fun ways you can include these as just another component of your layering your spell intention. So yeah, and the last fossil which I'm going to talk about is Ammonites. So Ammonites are a very, very common fossil. You see them all the time. When people think about fossils, people usually think about Ammonites because I guess they're so iconic. But this one is one that I didn't actually find. I bought this for like £1 when I went to Avebury. Ammonites are just really cool. So in English folklore, they're referred to as snake stones, as this is because the spiral it resembles like a coiled serpent. And sometimes you'll see at the very end of the ammonite, there's a little bit of stone and people have carved in like a snake head in it, so it looks like a snake fossilized. We can see that ammonites have been used in loads of different ways for just protection or luck, but I thought I would read out a really interesting legend from Yorkshire. So the St. Hilda Yorkshire legend essentially reads that when Hilda went to Whitby, the place was overrun with snakes. The snakes were traditionally seen as like symbols of evil or the devil. So she cast a spell to get rid of all of the snakes and turn them into stone. And then after she turned all these snakes into stone, she threw them off the cliff. And it's said that at the bottom of this cliff you'll find a whole abundance of snake stones because of this legend. So it's interesting inferring from this legend that they are a product of like a protection spell or a banishing spell. So you can see them as a very protective stone. And very similarly to other fossils, you can use them as pendants, you can use them in your spell sachets or your spell bowls or your poppets. Just gotta get a little bit creative, but yeah. And those are the 3 fossils I wanted to talk to you about today. There are obviously other fossils used in folk magic and even British folk magic, but just thought I'd go over those today, make this a short but sweet video compared to what I usually put out. But yeah, happy new year to you all as well. I hope 2024 brings you lots of blessings, love and prosperity, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.